So let's follow the formula chart so I can help you kind of see where your formula chart and your Phantom's Panic line up. Okay, so here's the formula chart. This is page 1, and we're going to start with page 2. Okay, with your Phantom's Panic, when you get to the T part in Phantoms, which is your test statistic, remember it's Z equals P minus P hat over, excuse me, I got that backwards, sorry. It's P hat minus P over square root of PQ over N. All right, so just kind of watch here. This is the P hat. This is the P. And this is the PQ over N. Okay, so if you look here, and if I go in the same order, here's my P. Here's my P hat, excuse me, minus P, and divided by, and then there's my PQ over N. So that's for my one proportion Z test. Okay, so now let's look at our two proportion Z test. Two proportion Z test is right below it. And I'm going to first of all tell you we're not going to be using this formula because remember, we're using P1 is equal to P2. P1 is equal to P2 because remember in my HO, P1 equals P2. So that's why we're not going to be using that one. So this one here essentially is going to move up. So same thing on this one. It's going to be Z equals, this is for the 2-prop, P1 hat minus P2 hat minus P1 minus P2 all over PCQC over N1 plus PCQC over N2. Okay, same thing, the same colors. I've got the blue, I got the yellow, and I got the purple. Okay, so same order. There's P1 hat minus P2 hat minus, that should have been a minus, minus P1 minus P2. Remember, for our P1 minus P2, because I'm having them equal, because they're equal in all of ours, that's always 0. So this always cancels out because it's 0. And then divided by this here. Purple. That's my PC, which they wrote it out a little different than I wrote it out because I write it, this is writing PC hat, QC hat over N1. It's the same thing. It's just distributing. Same thing that I do. So that's your 2-prop. Okay, now let's look at your confidence interval. For your confidence interval, scroll back to or turn back to the other page, and it says right here, confidence interval equals statistic. My statistic we've been making blue, plus or minus critical value. For that, that's my Z star. And I'll jump back to show you, remind you how to find Z star again, times the standard error of statistic. And I've been making that purple. Okay, so let me get rid of this for the test. All right, so for the 1-prop Z interval, here's our, I'll go ahead and write it out for you. All right, so we have my blue, which is this one, the P hat, and the Z star. That's how we find the Z star with the inverse norm. I'll show you that in just a second on your calculator. And then the purple is right here, P hat Q hat over N. So guys, the formulas are right here. You just have to make sure you know where they are. All right, and the second one for my 2-prop Z interval is going to be P1 hat minus P2 hat plus or minus Z star, and that's P1 Q1, both hats, over N1 plus P2 hat Q2 hat over N2. So same thing. Remember, we used this one for my 2-prop Z test. This one was for my 1-prop Z test. So you see the only one that's left is for my 2-prop Z And so this one here, of course, and that's here. So we'll do the blue again. P1 hat minus P2 hat, plus or minus Z star. Z star we find the same way, which I'll show you in a second, times P hat, Q hat over N, all square root N1, N2, all the whole deal. I said it all weird, but it's this in the purple right here. Okay, so just to review really fast for you for Z star. For Z star, you go to menu, stats, distribution, inverse norm, and you end up having area, mean, and standard deviation. Mean and standard deviation are already 0 and 1 in there, and it stays 0 and 1, but your area is going to be, let's say I want a 90% confidence interval. Remember, there's 5% on here, 5% on here, and remember, inverse norm doesn't know that I'm wanting the center 90%, so it starts here at the beginning, so I'm going past that 95%, past the 90% to get to that spot right there, and that's 95%. So I have to put in my area 0.95. When I put that in, I end up getting 1.96, and that would be my Z star for a 90%, excuse me, not 1.96, 1.645. And when I put that in, that would be my Z star for a 90% confidence interval. Remember, each confidence interval is different. Okay, and that's it. Hope the formula chart helps you and works as your quote-unquote cheat sheet on the test tomorrow.